Give it a couple of seconds to start up. Hey, what's going on, all the peoples? This is Ridiculous Badger back again with another collection spotlight. This time I've got Solus in his own thing, not a thing where he's sneaking up on another thing. But Solus, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for having me, Badger. I'm excited to talk about plastic robots.
That's like the only worthwhile conversation that you can have these days. Is my conclusion. So,
Exactly.
for those who don't know, Solus is one of the incredibly active members of the Show Z Store Discord server. He is also one of the moderators, and you've been on the team now for I want to say 3 or 4 months, right?
I think so.
Might even be longer.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's and it has kind of just it gets quick, I feel like I feel like we just opened up the server a couple months ago, but actually it's been just about 6 months now. We opened it up in November. Actually, it's longer than I think it's into its 7th month now, because it was in the beginning of November.
Yeah, May's creeping up to an end. So,
so I wanted to have you on to go over your collection because I think that a lot of people, when they're putting together their collection, they tend to have rules for themselves about what they can collect, what lines they want to collect, how deep they're going to dip their toe in. And out of anyone that I've ever spoken to in this hobby, you seem to, I'll say off the bat, you seem to have been the most successful person that I know in adhering to the rule of don't buy too much. Don't buy too many figures. There's only a finite amount of space.
yeah, I think one of the things that really helped was that I moved into, for uni, I moved into an apartment, right? So there's always the part where you realize that this 10 by 10 room is all the space I have, right? And at that point you're so I know this is a temporary arrangement, so I don't want to spend money on shelving that I'm gonna have to move later. And it's just at that point, those constraints start coming up, and you form a headspace about it, and then all of a sudden you realize okay, I have a finite amount of space, I have a finite amount of money, which is also a big driving factor. So I might as well make the most of that space and that money. So I don't have a shelf display. I don't have shelves. I think if I did have shelves, that would enable me too much. And I also just don't want to deal with where am I going to put them, moving them, and it's a whole bunch of things, because one of the things about college is especially when your future's a bit uncertain, you always have to be ready to get up and move. So yeah, it just reduces the anxiety of damn, I'm spending a bit too much, or I don't know what I'm doing with my collection. It's just a good problem, a good limitation to have.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's interesting how you kind of taken this situation and you're making lemonade out of lemons, right? You've turned it from a weakness into a strength. You're very particular about what you pick up. And by the way, don't think that you could just skirt by that and say that you're in college and then move on from that. Congratulations are owed. You just graduated, right?
Yeah, I graduated end of March, so it's been about 2 months now. Yeah.
Has your new best life settled in yet? Have all your dreams come true in the 2 months?
Man. Oh yeah, the post-grad depressive episode is truly such a fun time. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've noticed, a lot of the figures that you get or that you show off tend to be legend scale figures. Is that, a byproduct of you having to be really judicious in your space? Or is that more a cash thing? What do you think?
It's a combination of multiple factors. As we all know, legends, some people, it depends, what you value. But, I mean, legends aren't exactly cheap either, right? The way I view it is that, legends are kind of priced in proportion to mainline. The way I think about it is for example, let's say a Voyager size Legends figure, the Voyager of Legends, Legends, there's the the really small ones, like the mini bots, and then you have like the car bots, which are like the deluxes of Legends, and you have like the Infernos and the Ironhides and the Optimuses, which are like the Voyagers of Legends. And like a Voyager class Legends figure, like let's say New Age Inferno or Magic Square Ironhide, ranges from like $40 to $50, maybe 55, like when New Age is pushing it a bit. And when I think about it that way, it's like the engineering and like paint you get. Like first of all, like the engineering on like a New Age Inferno, I think is pretty much equivalent to like Kingdom or Legacy Inferno. Like it's just a downscaled version of like a mainline Voyager in some aspects in terms of like complexity and parts count. Sometimes Legends are more complex, like the Magic Square Ironhide is definitely more complex than SS86 Ironhide. So when you think about it that way, it's really just like a more compressed package with, I think, less compromised engineering, better paint, better articulation, and better accessories. And with the prices, like especially in California, with how bad sales tax is, SS86 Ironhide would have cost me like 35, maybe $36. Right? Like I got this on a sale for 19, but it retails for 40. So it's like when I think about Legends, they're relatively affordable, especially compared to like Masterpiece. They hit a lot of boxes for me, mostly like posability. They're fun to transform, stuff like that. And also when I was a kid, and I was only like maybe like 10 years ago, when I was like 12, 13, I had a pretty impressive collection of Transformers Prime and Dark of the Moon Cyberverse Commanders. You know, because back then they used to call the Legends class line for mainline, they called it Cyberverse. And I kind of enjoyed collecting little guys more than big guys because you could get more of them for less money. It was easier to like make a display out of them, and I've just always had like I've always been drawn to like little guys, I guess. I don't know, like I liked Bakugan as a kid. I liked like Halo action, like the tiny like Halo Mega Bloks figures, Lego minifigures. So I've always been drawn to like some people, some of us are just drawn to like smaller figs, you know. So Legends for me hits a lot of boxes, and is also really like efficient for me as a collector. So it's a pretty fun time.
I feel like Legends has really come a long way just in the past year and a half, 2 years.
Oh yeah. You compare like I don't have any like ancient Legends molds. I got lucky. I came in like now. Like the oldest mold I own is like I don't even know. Maybe New Age's. Actually, I think all my New Age releases are like pretty recent molds. I think the oldest one might be their Bumblebee or Cliffjumper, which is part of like the second phase of New Age stuff, which is like their 2.0s starting out. So even that is like a relatively new engineering mold. But yeah, like if you compare like, well, it just got reissued, right? Like you compare like Magic Square Cyclonus to like Magic Square like Ironhide or Optimus, like you'll see like the huge gap, right? So it's Legends has definitely like jumped forward, where like it's gone from like, oh yeah, these are just like tiny versions of your toys, like they're simple, they're fun, you can flip them together, to like stuff like Magic Square, like Optimus, right, which is like literally a downsized MP figure. Like they just upscaled that and pumped it out as a masterpiece, and like everyone's like, this is like the greatest Masterpiece Prime ever. So it's like, Legends is definitely cooking right now, a lot harder than it used to. So
yeah, I think it's like, I mean, it's great because it's an accessible entry point. Even if like, you know, someone like myself, like I don't have rules on my collections. I don't have guidelines, so I end up buying like anything that I think looks cool. It's easier to pick up a few Legends and not feel bad about the spend, you know? And I feel like what you get for the money is great. Although, side note, I don't know what Magic Square is thinking reissuing their Cyclonus right now. Like, nobody asked for that, you know?
Yeah, no, we can talk all about the way Magic Square uses their molds later on, actually. It's like something that I'm not personally a fan of. But yeah, I mean, you know, Legends is just like, it's what I enjoy collecting. It's kind of like what I was always looking for. And the good thing about NA is that New Age really taps into what I really like about Transformers, which is like repaints. I've talked about that a lot. So it's a pretty like it's a good intersection of axes to give me like the ideal sweet spot to operate in. But you know, there have been times where like I want to branch out to these like other brands, but like yeah, I'm not gonna get into like why I haven't branched out into as much Magic Square as I wanted to yet. We can talk about that later.
You can't just tease us with that. What's the like? So besides New Age, I mean, up until very recently, like New Age. Okay, New Age is great about putting out lots of repaints, but I mean, it's interesting that this is a topic that's kind of like for many people, it's a pain point, where they kind of get annoyed about the amount of repaints that come out. And I do think that it's interesting. Like, I was dead set against say pre-ordering a New Age Omega Supreme. I wanted them to do a Supreme repaint. Eventually, like I like cut my losses and I went in on their Shattered Glass one. But it's besides New Age, I feel like okay. Besides New Age and X Transbots, the repaint angle is not as leaned into as it is in mainline.
The reason why I think is because 3P is so focused on like hitting media accuracy, right? But I think what a lot of companies have forgotten is that like even if you base your stuff on media accuracy, like repaints are like quintessential to Transformers in ways that they are to different brands. Because like I know that some people like base like their entire interaction with the brand on media, which is amazing. I mean, I think talking about Transformers media is very fun because the media is fun. But it's also like a toy line that's like been omnipresent in like global stores for the last 4 decades. And the ways that a lot of people have gotten into Transformers have been through toys. So, sorry, I have to mute for a second.
By the way, this shot is completely composed of oddball repaints.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, right? So like that's kind of like my sweet spot right there. But basically, like a lot of people's experiences with the brands have come through repaints. Like if you look at the toys you grew up in, unless you like only bought childhood Transformers in 1984. Actually, even in 1984, like even the very first wave of Transformers toys had repaints, like Skywarp, Thundercracker,
oh for sure,
Hoist, Grapple. It's like the Datsuns. It's quintessential to the brand, you know. So like phoning in repaints is like a big pet peeve for me, and I see it happen all the time. Like even Hasbro's guilty of it. I want to admit, I have to admit it. Because everyone's like, okay, so like this is like the main use of the mold. Like I got my Toon Accurate Optimus Prime, and anything else I put out is just to milk more money out of the mold. But that's not necessarily true. Like in 2006, the early 2000s, the 90s, when Hasbro was putting out repaints, they were trying to put out toys that would like grab kids' attentions. Like a kid's not going to care like, oh man, this mold is like such a great mold with great engines. Like a kid's not going to care, right? They're going to pick up the repaint that looks cool, right? So like, I think I wish more brands understood that like your repaints have to be able to stand on their own. Like it can't just like do the bare minimum of being like, okay, so here's another Nemesis Prime, or here's another Shattered Glass Optimus. You know, so it has to like kind of like even New Age is kind of guilty of that sometimes. Where like some of the repaints feel like they're just doing like this is what it should be instead of like really like putting forward that extra oomph, or like giving it a bit more spaz, or I mean. What's that word? What is it called?
Pizzazz?
Pizzazz, yeah. Giving it a bit more pizzazz, you know.
I think it's interesting that, like, you know, you could totally see, like, I'll throw X Transbots under the bus. I feel like they're the most egregious with phoning in their repaints. I'm not excited, generally, when I look at an X Transbots repaint. Whereas when New Age releases their repaints, there's certain things I disagree with how they do it, but they're very, very good at getting me to get a second of the figure, or getting me to get a figure that I wasn't planning to buy because they put some real effort into a repaint. Like all of these in this shot, like these are all amazing, amazing repaints, and I would absolutely be fine with owning these in addition to the to like the regular base model of the item.
Yeah, like let's say like even like let's say just depth charge in the back right there, right? New Age Umibozu. Like they went way too hard on that one
I
for
love it.
no reason,
I
right?
love
I mean,
it.
retool, new head, parts for like an optional third manta ray mode, but like honestly, I'm just fine with the jet with retooled wings as my alt. But
It's so
when I
out there.
compare that to like the shattered glass version of their Cyclonus, it's like, I mean, yeah, that's shattered glass Cyclonus, but like, okay, like,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's doing what it does. Like, if someone loves that, like, good for them. But like, I mean, it's not like blaring at me like, now this is something like if you saw it on a shelf, like you gotta buy this. You know, it's kind of like a
Right.
it exists because it has to, but like I don't think it like really stands up for itself. You know, like if Shatterglass Cyclonus as a media entity didn't exist, would you buy that repaint? Is my question.
I mean, look, I'm all for the garish colors, but nah, it's a little too far left to center. Whereas, I think with like the Toy Deco Jetfire, like that looks friggin' phenomenal. The Toxitron that they put out, the Shattered
Yeah,
Glass Grimlock, like those
see,
are
that
phenomenal.
Toxitron was the first 3P Toxitron ever. That's like a piece of history right there.
Dude, it's so gorgeous. I picked it up recently. I love it.
I'm happy that it inspired Doctor Wu to put out one of their own, and hopefully we'll see more people putting out more Toxitrons because I think it's pretty underappreciated. And it's also better than Hasbro's versions, which have only been the BotCon exclusives. I think they're making one out of their Laser Prime mold, but I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of that mold, so I will not be buying it. But I'm happy. I'm happy that it's returning in an accessible way to everybody, right? Because before New Age put out this guy, the only way to get Toxitron was to pay like $300 for an extremely bad Combiner Wars Optimus repaint, which is just outrageous.
Yeah,
But
I'm all for the repaints. My issue comes when the manufacturer puts out an announcement that there's going to be, say, the base figure. And then in the middle, like after pre-orders for that have been fulfilled, then they start dropping repaints. My preference would be if at the onset, when they announced the figure, they announced all of the repaints that they were planning on. Obviously, there's going to be some more that jump in, and I
yeah,
think that New Age is getting a little better about this, but it's still not where I would like it to be.
it's like inconsistent. I think
Yeah,
sometimes like they'll have most of them out before the pre-order period is done. Like they were pretty good about it with Omega, I think, but then they added like the Guardians later, which you knew were coming, right? Like they put out the oddball ones
right.
first, like the not Diaclone. I think it's not Diaclone actually. The pre-Transformers repaint and a whole bunch of stuff. I think one of the ones that was kind of disappointing was Inferno because everyone was waiting for the EX versions of Inferno and Grapple, and those only just got leaked now
Yeah,
when the actual toy has been out forever. Like everyone's like, I know the EX is coming, but let me just buy Artfire instead. And to be fair, I like Artfire the most anyways, so I won, you know. But I know that other people who wanted EX Inferno and Grapple and finally gave up are now kind of upset because like I wish the EX line was like the second most prioritized line because I feel like when New Age puts out EX figures, nobody else comes close. So I wish they gave that line a bit more priority. But I mean, with Hound, we got to see Hound. We got to see EX Hound officially revealed, and now we know about 3 Hound repaints, and all of this is happening before Hound is shipped,
yeah,
which is great.
that's the best.
Or like Power Glide, when they literally just revealed
Yeah,
all 3 versions at once.
yeah,
So
that made it very easy for me to go. You know what? I don't need a Legends Power Glide, but I'm gonna get that GI Joe, that Cobra repaint. So I was
exactly,
happy with
exactly.
exactly how they did it there.
Yeah, and I wish New Age was a bit more consistent with doing it more like Hound and Power Glide every single time. But then it's like, I wish everybody else would follow suit as well. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people are really mad about Magic Square right now. I'm not even gonna get into the Swindle Brawl, Magic Square Bruticus feat fiasco. I'm not even gonna get into that. But even stuff like, for example, like Magic Square, like putting out their masterpiece Optimus and then putting out like the version everybody wanted a year later or 6 months later, right? The premium painted version. Or
Do you
I
think
think a
they
lot of
knew they were gonna do that? Because like it,
I think
Some
so too. I think everybody knew, but like the mold was good enough that most people didn't mind buying it twice. So at that point, it's like,
because I'll tell you, like I bought it when it came out, the first one, and when I got it in hand, like immediately, put it right back in package and just said, "I'm selling this thing. This thing sucks." But it felt like there was such a gigantic outcry from the community. I wasn't sure if Magic Square even had it planned, to be quite honest with you. But it's
I think it was happening because there was precedent, right?
yeah, there
And Magic
was.
Sword does that in general, right? Like they did it for the first Prime. They do it for like every single mold. God,
Well,
if
they
I
don't do
speak,
it for.
I'm in big trouble. I really prefer not to speak of Magic Sword right now because I don't want to come across as like a typical New Age fanboy hating on them for abstract reasons which don't even make sense. I just, me personally, as a guy who enjoys repaints, Magic Square consistently makes me angry. So I just don't want to talk about it.
But I feel like New Age is the most consistent when it comes to the repaints, and but a lot of that has only really developed during the pandemic, where now like
Yeah.
you could put money on the fact when they tease a new mold, you know there's going to be at least 4 versions of that mold, and you have a good
Oh yeah,
idea of what they
for
are.
sure.
But
Transparent, EX, Shattered Glass,
right,
and one random repaint. Yep, every
but
single time.
it's like Magic Square is not consistent, but also plenty of other, even like Fans Toys is not consistent.
I feel like Fans Toys is consistent in not putting out repaints. Like if they do a repaint, it's like a exception, right? Like because they know what their target audience is. They know their
it's hit or
target audience.
miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like,
Fans
it's
Toys
not the
do
same
that?
thing as like New Age is like substantially expanding their customer base by putting out repaints. Fans Toys would not be, you know.
Fans Toys doesn't care. Yeah, I don't think Fans Toys like. I mean, you need to look at the way Fans Toys put out the repaints, like for their Thomas repaints for their Astro Train. They didn't even get a photographer
Right.
for those.
Yeah.
They
yeah, yeah.
literally we
Render.
found out what those look like from TCP opening their copies and posting horribly mistransformed pics of it on their Facebook page. Like literally, there are no promo pics
Yeah.
for the U.S. toy version, and I don't think there will be any promo pics for the Japanese version either. So Fans Toys, they know what they're doing. They have a dedicated and loyal customer base that is very large. So they don't, or I mean, not large, but more than substantial enough to support their run sizes. So they don't really care as much. New Age, I think, with how Legends are a bit easier to produce, realized early on that yes, a large majority of the Legends community is again going for that tune accuracy, the definitive versions of their favorite characters and whatnot. But they also realized that with Legends, more people will be like more affable to trying out like new things, like the EX versions or random repaints when the price point is lower and the space they take up is lower. Like you may not be able to drop $200 on a toy version of Ultra Magnus, but dropping like 70 on one,
Yeah.
which is going to be substantially smaller, is a bit of an easier ask, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I especially because I think a lot of these days when you get a Legends figure, it's not like when they first came out. It's not like the like Hot Soldiers ones. It's not like Mech Fans
Exactly.
toys. When you go in on a modern New Age figure, I'd be hard pressed to feel like I'm not getting quote unquote my money's worth. It feels like a fair price if you're buying
Yeah.
overseas. If you're buying domestic, I don't know
just
why
don't
you're doing
understand
that,
what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. I think I know that New Age Grimlocks are like I have Clover, which is their Shattered Glass Grimlock. I know I paid $40 for that thanks to Showzi's sales. But I know that it's $170 on Big Bad Toy Store.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm pretty serious.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, they listed Omega for $340. It's $170 on Showzi. So.
Get this, man. I don't know why people are buying those domestic. I don't know what it is that they.
Yeah,
think,
it's really funny too. Like you'll see like the average like MP collector like bashing on Legends because of like domestic price points. It's like, dude, like you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, it's kind of infuriating because I guess those stores like it has to do with like shipping things and whatnot, and like whether or not those companies are gonna send them containers worth for cheaper. Because I'm pretty sure that Western retailers just buy Legends like at the same price we do. That's why they have to overprice them so much.
Man.
Which is unfortunate, but I mean that's like a skill issue on behalf of the retailer. Like if
Right.
if you don't have a deal, you might as well just not carry it. Like I can't imagine that buying things for retail and selling them for half price or twice the price to your customers is a good move. But if I speak, I'm in big trouble. You know?
All right, so let's get into some lighter stuff. A few of these images that I wanted to hit on with you. I gotta
Yeah.
ask, dude, I saw this as soon as you posted it. It was months ago. Are there magnets in Nightbird's shoes? How are you doing
There
this?
are. Yeah.
Thank
there
you.
are numbers in
Okay.
this. Yeah, it's very cool.
I was looking at that going, I don't know if he stuck that up with some fun tack or there's magnets, but that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I wish more figures had that actually.
Yes.
It's
Yes. So what's your collection is made of? You've got a number of legends. You've got some MP. You've got some like middle range, like MMC stuff. Anything that we're not seeing here that you've got over back home?
yeah. So when I had like multiple phases to my third party collecting. I think I started in like 2016, 2015 when I was in high school. And I picked up like one figure a year, and I think that was Make Toys Striker Neuer. One of those KOs of MMC Hexatron. I think it was a Clone Droid one. The reason I don't have photos of those is because I didn't bring them with me. I also have some BMB MPM figures, which I've talked about in the server, but to be honest, like I got those when I first got back into third party in like 2021, like in the tail end of the pandemic. And I wasn't like as aware as I am now about like the a third party in general, right? Like I had no idea what Legends were in 2020. And I was getting into these MPMs because they looked really cool, they were really detailed, they had a lot of stuff going for them, but they just weren't fun to handle, you know. And I coped through it thinking like, well, that's the price of being like movie accurate or whatever. But then I started handling like I got into New Age because of New Age Toxitron. Like I was a big Toxitron enjoyer, and all of a sudden like a third party company reveals a Toxitron. I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. I don't care if it's tiny or overpriced or whatever. And then I bought New Age Toxitron, and it's like it was like that Danny DeVito gif. Like, holy shit! Like I get it. Like I get it. You know, like.
I think
And,
I think one of the cool things about Legends is like, I mean, I'm not the best at transforming figures. Like generally I put my figures on a shelf and then that's it. You know, I don't play with my figures, but
Yeah.
you could hold like a Legends figure and futz around with it while you're watching TV or whatever.
Exactly.
And it's relatively intuitive. It's not hard because you can get any angle you need on it. You know, it's not hard work. And at the same point, if you do break it, it's not a gigantic, like if you break a tab off of your Fans Toys figure, like that ruined your month. You know.
I think in general, like breaking a figure is just like a really tragic experience. But yeah, like you said, you know, like I can flip most of my Legends back and forth, like while I'm not paying attention with one hand, and I never have to worry about like doing it perfectly, you know, like fitment or
Right.
like tolerances or whatever. Like I was messing with my MPMs this weekend because I went back home for a day to like do some errands and stuff, and God, I don't know if it's the BMB KO tolerances or whatever, or just the molds themselves, but man, I am never touching those shits again. I gotta be honest with you. Like after you handle Legends, you just don't want to go back. I mean, I don't collect G1 MP, so I think this might be like an MPM issue, or like I just don't have great MPMs. Like I've never handled like a Unique Toys MPM, so I'm probably missing out on those because I know those have more intuitive engineering. But I don't have skill issue when it comes to transformations. I gotta be honest with you. Like I did most of those from memory after not touching them for a year, so I'm pretty cocky regarding my transformation skills. I just don't feel like it's a fun experience. Like I know what I'm doing, I can appreciate the engineering, but like the physical steps of doing it, not fun, you know. But it is what it is, you know.
By the way, I would highly recommend, if you've not picked up figures, Unique Toys Peru Kill and the DX9 La Hire. Those are awesome,
Dude,
and you could get KOs for them. Like, you could get each of those figures for like $30 to $60 if you get a
I
KO.
have been on the fence regarding the La Hire for like the longest time. I would buy one in an instant if there was like a replacement head. You know?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I have a problem with all of the movie heads because I've never even seen
Oh
the
yeah.
movies. But yeah, I get that. I get
You know,
that, man.
even as a movie fan, that head is kind of like, what am I looking at, man?
I
It's
just so I'll tell you, with like the Unique Toys Peru Kill, I took off like the human looking face and put that one that's just like the
yeah.
blank expression. And yeah, I'm the things that like it's the biggest nitpick for me is like the head sculpts, but the engineering on those two figures is freaking fantastic.
Honestly, the Perukyo or that Age of Extinction lockdown, it always reminds me of. I might actually, if I ever get it, I might keep the human head on because it reminds me of Jason Statham. You know, like I don't know why, but it just looks like a mini Jason Statham. Like it's pretty funny.
So let me ask you this: with the shift towards legends for people,
Yeah.
can there be something? Can there be something similar where do you ever see like mainline having more of a place with like in like the premium collector because MP is so expensive, but we're watching like mainline figures are getting more and more complex.
So the issue I think with mainline that's holding it back is that like there's two things happening to mainline right now. I feel like a lot of 3P fans will just bash on mainline for like its flaws or issues, but like when I actually like look at these figures and like see how they're engineered and like you see what the designers are talking about, these dudes are talking about like keeping down the amount of like sprues they have to use.
Yeah.
That's an issue that 3P never has. Like 3P lives up to the masterpiece label because masterpiece means like no expense spared, right? Like sometimes it's excessive, like fans toys or like X Transbots wants $500 for their Power Master Optimus. We'll see how that goes. But the issue is that like these designers over at Mainline, they're not just trying to make like the best possible Transformer. They're trying to do the best they can with like a very limited scope of tools. And it's like really unfortunate to see because you'll see a lot of mainline stuff that is like a really fundamentally solid engineering, and then all of a sudden it's let down by like waffling or like a half-finished alt mode or like
Yeah.
lacking the amount of parts count it needs to do what it needs to do, or just being butchered by a lack of paint. And like like a mainline is getting more posable. Ankle tilts have become commonplace, which is amazing because ankle tilts are huge in my opinion for just putting it on a shelf even. It lets you actually like do an A stance. It doesn't look like it's going to fall over. So I mean, I'm a big fan of ankle tilts, but
Sure.
I think that like if you're like into toy hacks like Rob is, you can definitely like spruce up mainline figures and make them look more premium. I don't necessarily think that like it has to be premium for like collectors like us to enjoy them because they can still look
Right.
pretty cool. I guess my issue with mainline is that like it's also not like $10 anymore.
Right.
A deluxe is $26. And yeah, everything's more expensive. The dollar is weaker. I totally get it. But at the same time, we took 2 steps forward. We got more complexity and more articulation, and we've taken 2 steps backwards in like terms of like how robust the figures feel. Or honestly, I don't even know about complexity, man, because some of those Revenge of the Fallen, Hunt for the Decepticon toys were like super intricate, right? I just feel like we had some really bad mainline lines like Fall of Cybertron, Thrilling 30, Combiner Wars, Titan's Return, Power of the Primes. Those were all kind of not great in terms of like being complex. Like every single Combiner's Wars Deluxe transformed exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of like set a precedent, which kind of like was a big drop off compared like the old days of like Revenge of the Fallen Deluxes, which took like 5 minutes to transform. Like some of those things were like the most complex Transformers we'd ever seen up to that point. Like Revenge of the Fallen Leader Class Optimus was like the first real MPM in terms of complexity for a movie figure. But I don't want to bash on mainline. I just feel like if the prices were what they were in 2010, then yes, mainline would be eating really good right now. But the prices are pretty extreme. I gotta be honest with you. I know they have to be extreme because again, like groceries, essentials, everything else is like twice the price now too. But it's harder to reconcile with that when third party has gotten more affordable than it used to be in 2014. Right?
Yeah.
Because back then you were paying like what, like 100 plus for like a third party Voyager class figure.
I don't know, man. I think it's the price has increased a lot, but with third party. But I think the thing is, it's like you're consistently getting better engineering, and third party has like continued to develop. Whereas, like, I understand what you're saying with the mainline. It's kind of plateaued out, or like they'll develop in one specific thing, but then they'll miss that same issue on another figure. With third party, the standards are going up considerably, but I will say, like, as far as like now versus 7 years ago, yeah, in many cases you're paying double or more, but you're getting a more consistent product. And like back then, you didn't know if you got a third party figure, it could break at any moment, and that would be it. And nowadays,
yeah, that's my point. Is kind of like I wasn't necessarily comparing like MP, which is probably what I should have clarified. I was comparing like the old days of like Chug third party. I mean like stuff that doesn't exist anymore, so you don't really have like an equivalent to compare it to, like the fans projects of the world, if that makes sense. Like in 2016, like a Make Toys like Voyager class third party Chugster piece between MP and Chug figure is like maybe like $100, right? Same for like G Creation and MMC, right? An MMC Chugster piece in 2023 is still $100 to $120.
Yeah, I think some companies are kind of like more at fault than others. Like MMC, it's interesting. Like I watched a whole bunch of like MMC reissues go up, and they're essentially the same price that they were. Like that Megatron, that reformatted Megatron, everywhere on the aftermarket, you're paying $250 to $300. MMC comes back, puts up a reissue at $130, and gives you an option just to buy the core body for $65. Like, to me, that's
exactly.
I was not prepared for that, and like I'm still surprised at the price that they put it up for.
Yeah, like I guess a good example would be something like Pexis, right? Like Pexis is like the MMC replacement for Make Toys Striker Manus, which used to have that like golden standard of like, I'm the most posable and dynamic third-party Optimus you can get in this scale, which is like between mainline and MP, like this in-between scale. And they came out 6 years apart, and the price difference between them is $30, and Pexis is bigger and more complex and has more parts. That was kind of my point, where like that like 3P MP, like like sometimes like the prices for like 3P MP have gone really high. But like the stuff in between, which is kind of been phased out but still comes out occasionally, isn't priced too high. And like even some MP releases, like if I'm being honest, man, like X Transbot stack, even for $200, is that much more expensive than what you would get from Takara in 2014? Like Takara in 2014 would have charged you $150 for MP10.
Oh, dude, no. So like the MP22, that's come like. That was, I think, $240 when it came out.
Exactly.
Like, it's actually less. Yeah, I mean, X Transbots, MMC are excellent, in my opinion, at pricing their figures. To the effect, and I mean, what I mean by that is, like, I never feel like it's not worth it. Sometimes I'll pick up a Fans Toys figure and feel like, I don't know about this, for what I paid.
I think,
Magic Square is good at it. I think New Age is good.
I feel more comfortable with 3P prices. And the reason why is that, like, if you look at the images you're showing me, like, I think what's different between my showcase and other showcases, like, you're showing, like, individual screenshots. Because, like, that one pic you showed with, like, a bunch of Legends figs, that's, like, the bulk of my current collection. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I have, like, I have 4 NPMs at home and 3 or 4 third-party releases at home. But I don't really consider those part of my current collection because, to be honest, I'd probably sell most of them except for Make Toys, except for my 2 Make Toys figures and maybe the Clone Joy just because of sentimental reasons. But I would probably sell most of my NPMs if I could get together like the motivation to actually get through the hassle of selling them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like I feel more the stuff I have with me now is more like my current collection, which is just like these guys. The only thing missing is Metagate Legends BBM Optimus, which I got like last week.
You gotta let me know when you get it. Did you get it in the mail?
Yeah, I got it last week. It's pretty great. I think it has a few issues. It's not like perfect, but compared to like other like first releases for Legends line,
yeah,
I think it's the best one we've seen. Like if I compare it to like the first thing New Age put out, or the first thing Magic Square put out, or the first thing that like Rising Force or Iron Factory put out, it's definitely a better release. It just like in 2023, it might be like a bit questionable. Mine had like a loose shoulder, but I just like slapped some polyurethane on that thing and it's good to go. But I know some people have had some issues.
I think Metagate is a company to watch. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's literally just Unique Toys, but
I would not be surprised.
they have very Unique Toys feel, like the way they do their hands and stuff. But I would definitely like keep an eye out for them because any company that can put out a triple changing shatter is definitely like the king in movie masterpiece engineering. So yeah, but this is the bulk of my collection right now.
I mean, this is not a cheap shot either. I mean, this represents a good deal of money, especially for that retail.
If we were talking domestic prices, that would be like $1,000.
This is $1,000, yeah, this shot.
But if you want to know how much I paid for it, the great thing about Show Z is that like I get to live off of points. So like I don't think that shot is over $500.
Yeah, I think it's like if you were to retail this overseas, I think you're looking at like 700. So I'm not surprised to learn that you could have picked. It's not outside the realm of what is doable to get this.
All right, let's do some really fast math. Okay, all right, 1 second. So like, I paid like $210 for Devi. I paid $80 for Jetfire thanks to some points. So that's like $290. $100 for Toxitron. So we're looking at $390. I don't know if we're gonna hit 500. Yeah, this might be like
between
550. I mean, like I don't know if we're gonna be under 500 is what I meant.
No, you're gonna be over. Because with Clover, Art Fire, you probably spent 40. The depth charge, that's got to be 60. Yeah,
you're 2 Bumblebees are 40.
Yeah, you're at like $650 here. But if you bought it domestic, this would easily be $1,000.
Oh yeah, by far. Because Devastator, I think, is 300 domestic. Jetfire is 180, near 200, or 190 for Jetfire, 180 for Clover, 140 for Toxitron. So I don't want to think about the prices for some of these.
So let me ask you, what are you looking forward to? What releases?
So my birthday's coming up in a few days, actually, and I was thinking about like, what am I going to get? And I'm in a like weird limbo where like everything I want has not been revealed yet, or I was at least until 2 days ago, and then New Age dropped that photo showing off 6 new things. So I guess I'm on the hook for another New Age mold. I'm definitely looking forward to see what New Age's Jurassic Park Hound looks like in robot mode, because I am totally down for goofy collabs that aren't actually licensed. Like
totally.
I've been waiting for New Age to put out a mystery machine based on their Ironhide. They haven't done it yet, but like, please do. But that Jurassic Park Hound, I think, is definitely something I'm looking forward to. I was going to buy my first Fan Toys figure for my birthday, but I mean, it's their Japanese version of their Astro Train, and it doesn't exist yet, and they're radio silence about everything. So whenever that comes out, I guess I'll get my very late birthday present.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, for Fans Toys, it could be next week or it could be in 8 years. You never know.
Exactly. I guess if you go back to like the first 3-0 pick, This is like one of my favorite figures of all time. I think this is like the figure that convinced me that non-transformable Transformers are like extremely important in general, and like they shouldn't be like under, they shouldn't just be like swept under the rug or like ignored, because like this thing is fantastic. I think it's like at the end of the line, it's an action figure of a really cool robot that's like really high quality, and I'm up there. I'm there for that. I was thinking about getting their Megatron that like goes with this figure, but I don't love that design as much as I love this one. I really love this design. The other one is more like a, maybe I'll get it as an accessory, but it's also $240, and I don't feel like paying $240 for a very big display piece.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, where would
you
I
gotta
put it?
get what you like, you know?
Exactly, exactly. But I'm looking forward to seeing it, how it looks, and seeing other people's photos and enjoying it from afar. So it's more of a thing like I'm enjoying to see like what will come out. If you go to like the Magic Square Ironhide pick real quick.
Nope, there it is.
Yeah, so what I'm looking forward to for Magic Square is like literally like a single repaint. Like a single good repaint for Magic Square. I'd like to see them put out a single good repaint because they haven't put out a single good repaint in the last 2 years. This is the part where I get to complain about Magic Square. Like, this figure right here is the only good Magic Square repaint, I think, other than their Shattered Glass Jetfire they've put out in the last 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I don't care for them reissuing like their old molds, like reissuing a toy and like slapping like one new paint app on it and calling it a new release. I think that's just like, what is the point? Like, there's like 3 different versions of their Megatron that only have like one paint app difference, like red legs or gray legs,
Yeah.
and they just keep churning them out, or like they'll put out like the premium paint that ends up looking pretty bad, or like whatever, and it's like, you do all this, you use the mold 3 times, and you can't give me like a Diaclone version of Megatron, like not once, or you can't give me like a, or like their Optimus Prime, like they recently put out a repaint of their Optimus that I think, I'm pretty sure Spamage gave it like a 2-star review on the Shozi website, and that's insane because she loves that mold. But I was thinking about getting that mold because I really think it's a really cool toy. They're Legends Optimus 2.0.
Yeah.
And like that thing has like clear front windows
Yeah.
and sky blue side windows and no alternate hands. Like I just, every time I see a Magic Sword repaint, it makes me angry. Like their Cyclonus reissue, like why?
Yeah.
It's 2023, and
Yeah,
that
thing
Ferric
sucked when it
repaint,
came out.
like they picked the one repaint of Cyclonus that New Age didn't do, which is Ferric, who's like a BotCon exclusive
It's the
Target
reason why
master.
they didn't do it.
No, I mean, honestly, like if you look up like Magic Score didn't even do the paint job correctly, because like Ferric has like an entirely red chest and like a whole bunch of red on him. Like he's not just like a white Cyclonus. Whereas like Magic Square's version is quite literally just Cyclonus white version,
Yeah.
right? Like it's kind of like a, if you're gonna do these things, you got to put some effort into them. You know, like I like this Diaclone Ironhide that they put out, but to be honest, like I know that if New Age did this, there'd be a bit more consistency and like putting some like tampos on or whatever. Even though he doesn't really need them, he's like one of those Diaclone repaints which doesn't really need like tampos or whatever. But I mean, again, like I would buy like their Optimus mold immediately if they reissue the Nemesis version, even though I'm kind of bored of Nemesis Prime. You know,
They did. It kind of went like by the wayside in the middle of it, but they actually did release a Nemesis variant.
No. I mean, like if they reissued it, because I missed out on their Nemesis,
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
which they won't.
no, I mean, here's the thing. I think like you bring up an excellent point, which I think is not usually brought up, which is like we, the community, we don't have a problem with repaints, but don't just, if you phone in a repaint, don't expect it to sell, buddy. You know?
Yeah, like Magic Square's Nemesis sold out and hasn't come back since because it was a good repaint, which is rare from Magic Square. But like, I already know like those whatever things they put out are just like not gonna. I mean,
Well, I don't know
There's
anyone
not
that
effort.
saw the Cyclonus announcement and like prayed like a prayer of thank you to Primus, you know? Like, it's an
Yeah.
outdated mold. The repaints are phoned in. We didn't need it. And New Age put out a spectacular Cyclonus this year.
I think even like stuff like Magic Square like reissuing their Sideswipe instead of making a new one. When like that mold is like extremely dated, like Magic Square Sideswipe literally looks like a Mech Fans Toys 2018 release.
Yeah, I agree. They're missing the point of why collectors want reissues, honestly.
Yeah, and they're missing the point of repaints too, because nobody asked for MSB 46E. Like nobody asked for mismatched paint and random transparent windows when like the other ones are painted sky blue. Like nobody asked for that. We just wanted another version of that mold which is accessible. I think reissuing the original, which I think is still in stock. I mean, you can still get the original one, I think. But I mean, putting out a new version of that mold, like if you're not going to paint it premium, then like put it out in purple. Like hello, like
yeah.
I guarantee you a lot of people are going to line up for a Shattered Glass version of Magic Square Optimus. Or even like you put out the Legends Class mold in white. Like people are going to buy their Inner Magnus, you know, like
yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to. I think somebody on TFW said it best. It was a Magic Square fan actually, and they said that like whoever's designing Magic Square toys and whoever's making the decisions for like what they release or their repaints or how they release things has to be two different people, because like one of them clearly has a very good idea of how to make toys, and the other one is clueless, right? So,
well, like I'll tell you, like I wanted them to do that Legend scale Optimus with transparent windows, but I didn't pick it up for the point that you brought up, that it's, you know, it's too inconsistent in that the side windows are painted and the forward windows are like, no thanks, I just won't pick that up, you know? You missed the mark. And I don't think
if you're
they
gonna
could
make something premium, it has to be consistently premium. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like, and I think that the only way to do that is they needed to make the doors on the same sprue that they put the windows on, you know, and just make the doors transparent. Like that's what New Age did with theirs. All their doors are just painted transparent. But I don't think Magic Square does great with paint on transparent plastics.
I think it's also because they're just used to nylon, and you can't really do transparent nylon.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like a thing where like if you don't mind, like you kind of like work, like I think one of the things people talk about Magic Square a lot with their nylon, they'll talk about like, oh, it feels cheap, I don't like how it feels, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but like without that nylon, like you're not getting like these smooth and seamless sculpts, you know, like it's a trade-off. But also
right.
Another trade-off is that like you got to say goodbye to the transparent parts,
right?
You know, like you can put in a transparent insert for a window, sure, but
yeah,
consistently with how like complex these figures are, you can't fit in like 2 or 3 window panes.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done it. They and I understand that people said they wanted it, but there needs to be some clear understanding at the company where they go, yeah, I know this is what people want, but we can't do it for the Legend scale figure. We can only do this for the MP scale.
I wish they would like sit down and like maybe like scroll through TF Wiki a bit.
Oh my goodness.
And like see the history of like toys for the brand, because I feel like New Age spends a lot of time on TF Wiki. You know? Because they're constantly scouring for more repaints to milk more money out of their molds. But I feel like Magic Square just doesn't know what they're doing. They put out like 2 versions of Brawl that are functionally identical, and they called one the toy version and they called one the toon version. It's like, buddy, Toy Brawl has like a whole set of tempos.
No, it was IDW version and toon version, which like, but the only difference they made for the IDW one was a silver combiner foot. You know,
well, I mean, yeah, but that's like the toy version. But that's not even IDW. That's like the toy version of Bruticus and the silver foot.
That's how it. Yeah, I mean, it's how it appeared in IDW, and part of that is like the chest plate too. But yeah, it's not. It's right. That's not
okay,
the
like,
where
Brawl
that
doesn't even look like IDW Brawl. God damn it.
Right, exactly. But they're saying like the Bruticus will look like IDW Bruticus. But, you know, honestly, by the time Bruticus came around, they weren't doing like original art for that. Like, it wasn't like the Menasor was around in like phase 1 of IDW, so
Yeah.
it got a very IDW specific design.
Yeah,
Bruticus did
even like
not.
the more like G1 like adjacent IEW designs are still pretty stylized, man. Like
Yeah.
I saw the prototype for Magic Square's toy version of Bruticus, and like the aesthetics are still like very like 1984.
Yes,
Like that is
yes.
not IDW.
Not
Like that
IDW.
looks more like a new age toy version in terms of sculpt. So it's like, or like they put out two versions of Swindle that aren't functionally identical, but it's like, but your brawls are identical. So like, what's going on here? You know, like.
Are the
Like,
two Swindles not identical?
no, so apparently the toy version of Swindle has a more toon accurate face, and the toon version of Swindle has a more toon accurate chest. So apparently people are buying both so they can do a head swap. I think Spam is doing that.
This is so stupid the way that they're doing this, but I will say that the combined mode looks awesome, and I am looking forward to that. And these are, you know, if these are our only problems, we don't have that much to worry about.
Exactly, but I mean, shit. Like, if they put out a box set of that thing, and, like, they repaint it as, like, well, if they repaint it, I mean, it's Magic Square. A bunch of us have been, like, asking for, like, Ruination or, like, Battle Gaia. But, like, realistically, I mean, we're probably just going to get a box set of, like, the actual version with, like, the extra feet. And they'll be like, here you go, you know? But, I mean, I could wait like a decade for a new age Ruination, I guess. It's just unfortunate. Like I see all these cool Magic Square molds, and it's like I want them, but like they don't put out like the repaints I want, man. It's just like I'm not even asking for that much at this point. Like I usually wouldn't buy like a new age Nemesis or like just like a new age Nemesis Prime. Like that's not like out of left field enough for me to consider buying it. Like. But like New Age has like 20 versions of their Optimus. Magic Square has like 2. Or maybe 3. Like it's at the point where I'm asking for like a single good repaint. You know, like put out a repaint of a good mold in good colors, and I will buy it.
I hear you. You know, and I'll say to you, I really do appreciate you know, the amount of time that you've thought about this, because I think that, you know, most of the time when collectors start talking about repaints, you know, it becomes a completely different conversation where they're not happy with how they're releasing repaints or how much they cost. But I do think like you have a very interesting take on it that I had not considered. So we'll thank you for that and for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share about your collection or anything else that you're looking forward to before we wrap up?
Well, so I think TFC Lumiton is in here somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's a fantastic figure.
Yeah, I love this figure. It's like it hits a lot of boxes for me. Mostly the alt mode though. The alt mode is where it shines. And like I love these like photorealistic alt modes. I love like the non-exposed undercarriage.
Oh yeah.
I love like this looks like a model J20. You know, like it looks like the plane it's based on. And if you showed it to someone who didn't know it was a transformer, maybe for a second they don't guess that it transforms. Because like they might see the seam lines, but like realistically, like a lot of model kits have seam lines too, you know? So
totally.
I love figures like this. The problem is that like a lot of them end up with a lot of issues because like the engineering has to be really tight to get that perfect look. So there's a lot of things going on. They're very complex. Lumiton is pretty much issue free. I wish the paint felt a little bit better. It feels like chalky almost. So I'm like scared it'll chip, but it hasn't chipped too badly. I have like a few minuscule ones, but honestly for how much paint is on this thing, that's not really an issue. I know their helicopter chips pretty badly, which is unfortunate. I would like to buy more things like this, but they have to really call to me. I bought this mainly because I like what the J20 looks like. It's one of my favorite like planes of all time. I'm not really a plane person. I just really like what this plane looks like. So it's like a one-time thing for me. I only have one figure from this line. But I mean, I would love to see this done for like a Baver Starscream, you know, because I like Baver Starscreams. I like the Dorito plane. I'm a very big fan of the Dorito. But I'm not really a big fan of like the current MPM mold, which has like a really like basically a robot underneath a jet, you know. And it's like I understand it would be really hard to make it like concealed, but like I'm not even asking for that. I'm just asking so that like when I look at the jet from above, I don't see like his hands underneath, you know?
Yeah.
That's like my biggest thing where like if I can see like robot mode Kibble from like a top down view, then it's like, all right, buddy, like you didn't even get the silhouette right. Like move along, do not collect 200, do not like buy a new apartment and go straight to jail, you know, because like I can't stand for that. Like I understand like you're gonna have underside Kibble, but if I can see it from above, that's like one of my, I think everyone has like their rules, like their pet peeves, right? That's mine. That is definitely one of mine. I think in general, I'm excited to see like how the Legends game is going forward. Not just in terms of like repaints or whatever, but just the molds in general. Like Magic Square is like killing it right now in terms of figure design. New Age's Hound, like compared to like the other figures, I mean Hound has like, I think one thing New Age needed to get more consistent with is being more consistent with like their raw articulation, because a lot of New Age figs have like 90 knees or like 90 elbows, and like yeah, like I mean it's Legends, and people are like that's crazy, right? But at the same time, if you really want to like stand with the big boys, you got to bring all the joints, right? So like I'm happy to see that New Age Hound has like double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. But also it has like those really juicy like forward and backward ankle rockers, side to side. It has like everything it needs, right? I think it has like exactly the same as Magic Square Hound in terms of raw count. I think Magic Square has more range on a few points, but usually Magic Square always takes articulation. So it's nice to see that New Age is stepping that up. I want to see more molds from them because I'm a big fan of what they're putting out. I would like to see maybe like another repaint of MMC's Optus Pexis. I think that mold is fantastic. It's good enough where I would buy a second copy if I liked the repaint, without a doubt. I would love to see maybe more repaints from companies that usually don't do them. Like let's see what Fans Toys has to offer, because when Fans Toys does like toy versions, like oh my god, like the toy parts on their acoustic wave are gorgeous, right? I would love to see that Japanese version of Thomas come to fruition. Like it doesn't really exist, but I'd love to see it happen. I mean, it's going to happen. Like they literally like are taking non-refundable pre-order deposits for it, so it is going to happen. I would just like to see it happen, like maybe like before July, you know?
Yeah.
Especially since they said it would come out a month after the US version, and that month ends in a week. So I would like to see it sooner than later. I guess in general, I would like to see more third-party repaints. Better repaint efficiency. This is a thing that I wanted to talk about. In regards to Iron Factory, which is another great Legends company, why is there no repaint of your Samurai Grimlock? Like, respectfully, what are you doing, buddy? Because you put out a repaint of that putrid Samurai Drift, right? You put out a repaint of your Samurai Lockdown. You put out a repaint of your Samurai Bludgeon, who breaks and falls apart. And you put out two repaints of your Samurai Leo Convoy. But the best mold in your Samurai line, the Grimlock, is the only one with no repaints other than your Cyclonus, which is also one of the best molds in your Samurai line. I think they also have repaints of their Samurai Ironhide. And like, yeah, like those molds are good, great, whatever. But I talked about this with Scythe, like earlier. Like, why is there no repaint of the best mold in the line? That to me is like a travesty. Like, you should be reusing molds that are actually good, not molds that are passable. Like, I will say this to everybody. Like, New Age, the only New Age figure with no repaints is their new Ironhide mold. And I think it's because Magic Square kind of trounced them when it came to the release. And they kind of swept that mold under the rug, which is unfortunate because I feel like I still would have bought a Mystery Machine repaint. But, like, good. You know, good. Like, you realize like the mold is maybe not like the best one you've got to offer, so you prioritize other things. That's a good idea, right? New Age realizes their Inferno mold is super popular, and they come back with 3 more. That's a good thing. But Magic Square pumping out their Ancient Cyclonus, or like Iron Factory refusing to repaint their Samurai Grimlock. What are you doing, man? Like, I don't get it. Like, I know that designers have personal convictions regarding things, but like, you have to understand, like, we are much more likely to buy something if the mold it's based on is actually good, right? Like, I will be the first person in line for a repaint of Samurai Grimlock. By far. I will be the first person to slap a pre-order on that bad boy. But it doesn't exist. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, I think, in general, when companies will repaint, like, their worst possible mold. Like, for example, like Iron Factory putting out a repaint of their Samurai Drift, which I think is the worst mold in their Samurai line, in that subline. And then not putting out a repaint of like the best two molds in that line, which I think is like the Grimlock and their Cyclonus, other than their Leo Convoy. So,
I mean, I think that's a very good point. I mean, the only thing that I could say to speak to that is that I believe that runtime becomes the serious issue, but that does nothing to explain away your point, which is you're putting out repaints of bad molds. Why aren't you putting out repaints of your best molds?
Like, that Iron Factory Drift, the repaint has been shelf warming on sale on Bombasby for the last year and a half. Like, I get it. I get it that like your that like your Grimlock hasn't sold out yet. I get it. But
they just reissued it.
Right, they just reissued it. Like, it hasn't flown off the shelf. I think Iron Factory also makes me kind of angry because like I feel like they try to keep their run sizes low, which I'm not really a fan of. Like, New Age doesn't give a damn about it. Right, which is funny because sometimes like people compare New Age to fans toys, which is accurate in some aspects, but like they're the exact inverse on the reissue scale because New Age reissues like every other day because they want to get more money out of their molds. It's not like an altruistic thing. I just wanted to put that out there. But Iron Factory, I think especially, has really inflated aftermarkets on their old stuff, right? Like that, like their Optimus or their Elita 1 and stuff like that has really inflated aftermarkets. And like, yeah, it's fair. Like, I mean, you don't want to release old stuff because you don't want your buyers to feel like scorned or whatever because the value of their collection is going down. I know they even have like collector's cards which are numbered for their repaints, which in my opinion is kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. I've never been a fan of like limiting run sizes like that because I would like more accessibility for more people. But I also understand that, like, with a hobby as niche as this, like, or niche as this, like, you don't really think that, like, too many people are going to want it. So it's like a pick your poison type thing. But on the same side, like, yeah, obviously you don't want, like, your mold to clog up the shelves. But my point is that a good mold is much more likely to sell than a bad one. Right? Like, I'm personally upset, you know, because something I want doesn't exist, and I feel like a lot of us are like that, where we start to feel strongly because things we want don't exist, and I have to understand that like there's other factors that go into it, and my personal feelings can't cloud my judgment. But on the other hand, I feel comfortable saying objectively that you should use good molds more often than less good molds. If you could take one thing away from that for like any third party who might be listening, which they aren't, that would be my message. Yeah.
I hear you, dude. But yeah, I mean, obviously no one's listening. But yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that's a very reasonable and economical usage of the phenomena that is repainting. Whereas, like, I see a lot of people who are just like, I hate repaints, like. And I think you have a very practical approach to it. Repaints exist. They're gonna exist. They're necessary for the industry. But we'd like a little bit more strategy here, people.
Absolutely. Also, I'm happy you brought this pick up because I want to talk about it. Shout out MMC for accidentally making a Berserk homage with this figure. They confirmed it was an accident. But I think they're more than welcome to own up to it because it looks great. I tried my hand at like photo editing with like this release or that like one picture of my Jetfire or my Clover. I'm not very good at it yet, but hopefully I can get better at it later. But finding the time to practice
dude,
a challenge.
this is fantastic. I mean, look, I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing that you are. You know, we're all trying to find
Yeah,
time for our hobbies. So I think it's great that you're, you know, that you're chasing this one, that you're working on it, and I want to wrap up. So I'm gonna say
absolutely.
thank you for showing us your collection. But I feel like more of what we did here tonight was talk about what makes the mind of Solus tick, which
Yeah,
I think it's really great for perspective. I think people tend to kind of make their own decisions about why things exist, and it's clear that you put a lot of thought into this, and one that, you know, you've taken a stance that can benefit both the producer and the consumer on this. And so I think it's healthy, and I hope that more people will consider the topic that you've laid out in this manner.
appreciate that, man. I also appreciate you sitting here while I talk your ear off. So,
I love talking. But anyway, thanks for sharing with us. Thanks for coming on, and for everybody listening, thanks for joining us, and have a great night.
see you later, everyone.
I have to click stop stream.